Hello everyone, my name is Lowko, and it's... Did I... I was gonna say it's time for another professional match of StarCraft 2. I just accidentally used the intro that I've done for years and years and years, but dropped about 6 months ago. Did I really just... Anyway, we're just gonna go with it. It's time for a professional match of StarCraft 2, and spawning in the bottom right corner of Abyssal Reef Alley, playing with the blue Zerg pieces, we have none other than Impact and his opponent, spawning in the cross position, the current world champion of StarCraft 2, the current WCS champion. We have none other than the Terran, known by the nickname of ByuN. I can't believe I just did that intro that I haven't done in so very long. Sometimes it happens. Oftentimes I just go ahead and re-record the intro, but today we're just gonna go with it. Now, Impact, he's one of those players that I actually thought who was retired. It's a little bit interesting. I've not really heard of him until back in April. So basically at the end of 2016, at the end of last year, a lot of the big Korean organizations ended up getting rid of their StarCraft 2 divisions in favor of other esports. And with that, of course, a lot of the professional gamers right there were affected as well. Impact being one of them. I thought he retired as well because I hadn't really heard very much about him, but all of a sudden, a couple of months ago, back in April, he ended up winning the VSL. Now, the VSL was a reasonably small tournament over in Korea. Still one of those tournaments, however, where some of the best players in the world participated in. And he ended up beating ByuN, he ended up beating Zest, and he also ended up beating Heroes, if I'm not mistaken, in the finals. So, that does showcase to you, I mean, those three names, if you're unfamiliar with the professional scene of StarCraft 2, they are some of the best in their respective races. And Impact, I mean, he's always been a very high-level Zerg player, but I feel like he's never really gotten the attention that he so very much deserves. Regardless, though, he's going up against ByuN. I mean, I briefly mentioned it. He's currently the world champion of StarCraft 2, and he's probably... I think he's probably been my favorite player for about a year or so. So, at this point in time, I mean, ByuN, he's an absolute, like, treat to watch. His control, in particular on this little unit right here, the Reaper, of course, his control in StarCraft 2 in general and his micro has been unmatched. It's just simply been unmatched. The guy has absolutely the best control in StarCraft 2. I don't think anyone really comes close to that. And of course, Terran is the one race that really, like, gets the most value out of that one as well. So let's have a look at this Reaper. See if he... Watch him lose this one, okay? I wouldn't be surprised. Well, he's running into 6 Zerglings here. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up losing this Reaper right now just because I mentioned it, right? I mean, that's the caster curse right there. Regardless, though, ooh, he's getting a lot of scouting information down right there. And you can see, like, his decision-making and his control on Reapers... It's just on another level. I don't really know exactly why that is. A lot of Terran players will open up with a single Reaper in many of the cases. However, ByuN is... I mean, he's one of the very few professional Terrans that still focuses on mass Reaper openers right here as well. Regardless, though, not going to be the case in this one. He's gone for that quick factory, and he will be able to follow this up with a reactor here as well that's building on the barracks right now. But he's actually already running on a 3rd command center right now. Way before that 3rd hatchery will go down here. He may try and get that one in just a second, but that is actually a very greedy opener right here by ByuN. Knowing very well that Impact, generally speaking, plays a reasonably macro-focused and safe style. Usually, Impact plays the strategy where he's just simply sitting back for a while, at least in the recent games that I've seen him play. He just simply sits back for as long as he can. He will try and hold back for as long as possible and eventually overpower his opponent. And, I mean, ByuN is playing right against that right now. He's not necessarily playing the matchup. He is most definitely playing the opponent. Now, a couple of Zerglings did run up that ramp right now. They did end up seeing this setup right here, which is not all too surprising, but he did not see and get a scout off on that 3rd command center just yet. And that's actually going to be a rather big deal. Roach Warren underway here as well. Of course, Impact is going to respond to that Hellion play by making a couple of those roaches here very shortly as well. I wonder if he's going to stick to the Roach Ravager style, which a lot of like European Zergs in particular do end up favoring. Nice pickup actually right there by ByuN. We'll be able to slow down that creep threat, which actually affects mid-game Zerg quite a bit. But so far, actually, well, it's interesting. He's getting three Overlords here. He's saving up some resources. I think that he may be planning to make quite a few of those roaches. 7 already going out, and the thing is, of course, that with this early game opener right here, right, Terran really won't have all too many units out for another little while. But I think by the time the roaches come out, and actually more and more are being added on, Stimpack will be at the very least very close to finishing here as well. So far, though, no information about this just yet by ByuN. He's not moved up the ramp just yet, so he doesn't even know about the Roach Warren. At this point in time, while that 3rd base is going up, ByuN is starting to fall behind in the supply count. Now, of course, that can be a little bit deceiving. Supply counts, generally speaking, are going to be in favor of the player that is playing Roaches, but he is in for a whole lot of aggression. He will scout it out, though, with his Reaper. How did that even just happen? Did he just high-five all of those roaches, or what? He just, like, bazookaed and passed them, right? They were just all holding up their hands. Just slapping each and every one of them. Zerglings once again trying to make their way into that natural as well, but the Hellions will force them back here for the time being. But the roaches are arriving right now, and these bunkers are not in time. Is ByuN overextending right here in the early part of this game? I mean, he's got that third command center, so if he ends up losing a lot of the SCVs, it's not that big of a deal. But of course, if he can indeed be overwhelmed here, that's gonna be a major issue. The SCVs will be able to start repairing the bunker that the Marines are currently in right now. Second bunker does also finish up as well as the third, and I think that actually, with some pretty stellar defense, ByuN will just barely be able to hold on. But was it going to be appropriate? 22 SCVs ended up following their impact, taking a dominating lead here in the early part of the game. But the one thing to keep in mind is that these 3 yellow heroes will go ahead and start gathering all these juicy blue mineral patches. Even though Terran definitely is behind at this point in the game, he was not quite overrun just yet, and at this point, I mean, while there are still a lot of Zerg units out as well, I think that Impact indeed is going to be better off droning, because he knows very well as well the strength of these of these yellow master miners right there. Look at them. They're going to be able to gather those resources with absolute ease, and I mean, even though the income will be in favor right here of the Zerg in just a second once the he's actually just barely in favor already, but in particular once those mules start dying out. I mean, with 5 mules mining at once, the income is gonna be very solid here for ByuN. So I think that going for that third CC may have been a little bit too greedy, but by no stretch is he out of this game just yet. And I mean, he's known, right, to be able to crawl his way back into the game. Love that early game opener here, though, by Impact. Knowing very well that his opponent is more than likely gonna play that greedy style, because he knows how Impact plays. So that's sort of like playing the, you know, the back and forth style. This is what I love about professional StarCraft 2. Oftentimes, players have got a decent understanding of what either of them are going for, and even though Impact doesn't really scout the third CC, I mean, he didn't even scout it just now with the Overseer. Even though he didn't really know that, I mean, they are playing against their own image, which is kind of a funny thing as well. I've seen, for example, ByuN open up with like double barracks or triple barracks as well, and then just because everyone knows him as the guy that makes Reapers all the time, not make Reapers. Just because he knows that his opponent is going to scout it, and then he's not going to make Reapers, he's going to make Marines, and he's going to force his opponent to overreact. It's really smart. Like, technical play is, it's awesome. In a couple of years from now, StarCraft 2 will be absolutely at the top of its line when it comes to that, but hold that thought, because the Marines are pushing up here. They do have +1/+1 done here as well, which is a very nice pickup, and you can see it here as well, right? The question is, though, is this going to be enough here for the Terran player to deal damage to? I mean, sure, he's cleaning up a lot of it, but the reinforcing roaches will shortly come out here. And I think actually that this will most definitely be in favor right here of the Zerg or of the Terran player, because I mean, these meta effects would just simply regenerate their energy. None of them have ended up falling just yet, and these Marines are actually getting a ton of value in. More importantly, though, of course, he's forcing a lot of units out of his opponent. At the same time, a little bit of aggression apparently was going down right here at the third. Apologies, I apparently did miss that, but none of the workers really ended up falling right here. 23 SCVs in total, though, during this game, and that's most definitely not the state that Impact or that ByuN wants to be in. He's also going to be able to pick up another one of those mules, which is very nice. But all things considered, I mean, ByuN, he's going to be able to start playing his own game right now. He will be able to establish that third command center here. He's going to be able to start really building up the economy. He's going to be able to salvage these piggy banks very shortly as well to get some of his hard-earned resources back. And I mean, even though Impact is very far ahead, right? He's in a Roach, he's on a Roach Ravager-based army, and he's committing to 2-2 here as well. That's a big deal. That does mean that shortly Impact will go ahead and max out in just a couple of minutes from now. The thing is that if you max out on Roach Ravager Infestor, right? And apparently, actually, there's going to be some damage here by that Liberator. ByuN, uncharacteristically right here, will end up losing that one immediately. Even though, like, Impact is securing a nice early game maxed out army, in particular, once 2-2 finishes right here for the Terran player, this army composition will quickly start falling, and especially, right, when 3-3 finishes. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that Roach Ravager kind of armies do not scale nearly as well as some of the other army compositions for Zerg do. For example, Mutilating Bane, it will benefit from upgrades a lot more than 3-3 Roaches will against bio-based armies, just because Marines, of course, shoot so very quickly and can so easily be replaced. Zerglings, though, still trying to make their way across. They're going to try and deal whatever damage they can right here at that third base location of ByuN. ByuN is simply trying to make as many units as he possibly can right now, but the Roaches as well as the Ravagers are here to defend against the 4 Medevacs and all of the Marines right here. Still though, like the creep spread is being contained very nicely here by ByuN. I mean, at this point in the game, considering we're 10 minutes in, the creep spread is very lackluster. And that's not actually due to the fact that, like, Impact hasn't been trying to spread it. It's mostly due to the fact that ByuN has just been scanning and killing it constantly, which is actually going to be a big payoff in just a little bit once these armies indeed will start fighting. I mean, ByuN, he's got a good amount of drop here already. Actually, we do have tunneling claws as well on these roaches. We'll see if he's going to try and end up using that. He's also getting some infestor right now, as well as the hype. So Impact is planning to switch into something a little bit differently, but normally you would get +1 melee here instead. Matter of fact, though, are being filled up. A couple of these tunneling roaches will try and make their way across right here. I think they may very well be able to force the council right there on that 4th base location. Units are literally everywhere, though. There's widow mines burrowed in every which way that will be able to keep those SCVs alive for a little while longer. The SCV that was indeed building up at that command center will be cancelled as well, but the scan was available. And apparently somehow, some way, a single roach managed to get him out of there, at the very least for the time being. At the same time, though, on the other end of the map, and I think the only reason why ByuN wasn't paying attention right there is because he was indeed preoccupied trying to micro this end of the map instead, getting some nice connections there on those corrosive biles, just barely not getting them. Oh, well, okay, never mind. I was gonna say, just barely not getting the medevac, but he will be able to pick it up right there at the last second. Couple of roaches still hiding off in the corner. The dropship that went on the right-hand side of this map did manage to fly across here as well. And while ByuN managed to do a little bit of damage, 7 roaches here and actually 10 in total, or 7 drones rather, and 10 drones here in total. This is most definitely not not that detrimental anymore. I mean, Impact, he can make workers for days right now, right? He can replace any of them very, very easily. And we do not see that Ultralis Cavern as well as the Spire come down as well. He's also going to start researching the +1 melee as well as the Baneling speed. So he does recognize indeed that the late game army composition based around Roach Ravager will more than likely not work out. Lots of Banes as well as Zerglings right here on the left hand side, and we see Marines on the opposite corner of the map here instead. Lots of Zerglings actually burrowed everywhere. Look at that. I love that play, though. Really smart little move. I mean, ByuN has got widow mines as well, so he will be able to keep track here of most of the Zerg's army. But at this point, I mean, there's infestors right there. I don't think that ByuN is seeing it just yet. That does mean that he's going to be in quite a little bit of trouble. Scan does get used, however, and of course, he will be able to spot that infestor just barely in the nick of time. That could have been a big issue, but there's still one of them hidden right here on the left-hand side as well. Look at that, though. Massive run by here with the Zerglings. I think the Banelings already did go in at the same time. Lings and Banes also trying to make their way across, actually. There's still a lot of these Lings that managed to stay alive right there, but I think that for the time being, ByuN is just simply gonna sit in the middle of the map instead. Lots of aggression everywhere right now. Lings are trying to move into every single corner here of the map as well, trying to get a good surround of, while both players are, you know, aware of the slow push here in the middle. ByuN is also pushing here on the right hand side towards that 3rd base location instead, and so far there's not a whole lot of Banelings here available just yet. This could become a bit of an issue. Banelings now also moving towards that natural expansion. They're gonna try and move in here at the same time. The siege tanks and the Marines have arrived here at the 4th, and we are getting into a really epic game here. This is a clash of skills right here, if anything. Beautiful wall off right there by the supply depots, really preventing those Banes from getting the damage in that was purposefully put right there. Siege tanks in a brilliant position as well, picking up all of these Lings. So while a couple of the Banes did manage to make their way into the mineral line, minimal losses going down just yet. However, hold that thought, because the Marines and the siege tanks are now also pushing on the other end of the map. Zerglings made their way inside of the main base of the Terran player. A lot of the Lings now also doing damage to that natural mineral line. And actually, the Zerg is everywhere. Considering the amount of pressure that he's under right now, he is definitely dealing damage right here, recognizing very well that ByuN was indeed gonna go ahead and slow push. Looks like he managed to clean up the Marines rather on the right-hand side of the map. And at this point, Ultralisk are out. Chitin is plating. I think it's finished up. Yes, it is finished up, and that's a big deal. That means that these Ultras can indeed start dealing damage. As long as the Liberators go down, this army will end up falling in just a matter of seconds. At the same time, though, still so much damage here being dealt. The Roaches, once again, trying to make their way back into the bases right here of the Terran player. Scans are used everywhere just to confirm that there are indeed no longer any hidden Zerglings anywhere. And actually, still, ByuN is advancing onwards. These players are microing in so many different locations, but I think that the gist is up. Like, look at this. This is where Terran is gonna be in a lot of trouble because Zerg is advancing. Liberators will end up taking taking a ton of damage right there. Ultra scrambling to the front, trying to do whatever damage they can. +3 armor that is indeed done right now, so that does mean that these Ultras are gonna have a ton of sustain. But of course, the creep once again has been cleaned up. That does mean that Zerg will have a hard time continuing this aggression, and somehow in some way the supply counts are now evened up, and ByuN is looking like he's in dominant control right here at this point in the game. However, Zerg still taking 2 additional bases here as well, right? 3-3 is just now finishing up here as well for ByuN. That is a very important upgrade, and the thing is that Terran is usually sort of stuck on like a late game composition that's based around bio, tank, as well as liberators. Usually late game, they go a little bit heavier into liberators, but I mean, this is gonna be a very tough game to win if you're going up against, for example, Ultras, Infestors, as well as Brute Lords and Corruptors. Marines, however, did make their way towards the bottom map right here. A lot of Zerglings are now also running by towards these command centers, but the thing is, at some point, Terran can just simply start sacrificing most of these SCVs and just start dropping mules down instead. Not really a luxury that Zerg has at this point in the game. Zerglings trying to clean up whatever damage they can. Drops are literally going down everywhere. Once again, these players are playing their hearts out, man. This is such a tricky thing to do. I mean, I don't think either of these guys have ever heard of the all-army hotkey, right? Neither of them is definitely not using F2 at any point during this game. Absolutely brilliant move. Once again, though, abusing that high ground right there, dropping a couple of the units up on the high ground as well to really try and distract the Zerg AI at the same time. A lot of damage is being dealt right here by the Zerg, desperately trying to push that creep forward, and really, like, containing that creep here has been, like, the biggest feat of ByuN here so far. The Zerg has such a hard time really doing anything, you know, when they don't have the creep available to them. And that's such an important thing here to pick up on. If the creep was out all over the map, Zerg would be all over ByuN. But ByuN, he's been scanning left and right. He's really been trying to contain the Zerg. And so far, I mean, he's starting to be in dominant control. I said it a minute or so ago, but this is the point where Zerg becomes a little bit weak, a little bit weaker. I'm a little worried here for our Zerg player here by the name of Impact. Ghost Academy did just now go down here as well. More and more gases are being taken, and ByuN, I mean, he is building up the economy. He's only got 51 workers, right, which may be a very small amount. Oh, beautiful scan there, actually, scouting that there were some burrowed banelings in time. But the thing is, he's got 51 workers on purpose. That means that there's more of... What? They just literally pass each other. Meaning that there's gonna be more supply available to deal with all of the army as well. And you're just simply gonna be able to build up a stronger maxed out force. So many mules indeed can be dropped. Now, Impact still playing his heart out though. Definitely blocking so many of these expansions and killing a ton of workers. 42 SCVs went down here. But look at the amount of command centers that are being added on. I mean, ByuN knows he cannot quite close out this game just yet. He's adding on a lot of ghosts instead. Not really producing all too much here on purpose as well, just saving up some more resources so he can build out an army here that's going to be difficult for the Zerg to kill. And I mean, with walls of command centers, right, and more importantly planetary fortresses, something else will have to come out of Zerg to try and deal with all of these units. I would love to see a greater spire here as well, as I don't think he's got that one just yet. Lynx and Banes once again making their way towards that third base location. ByuN has got a beautiful positioning right there on that siege tank, but at the same time Zerg is advancing right here on the right hand side of the map, trying to make their way towards this base. A single snipe does go down, which is nice, but at the same time, the Lynx are still trying to control in here. ByuN just holding on to that left-hand side of the map. I mean, this has been under assault the entire game, but it's not been correct a single time. Apparently, one hero ghost here, ready to go ahead and snipe some of these Zerglings and potentially an Ultra as well. And so far, I mean, the defense here of ByuN has been absolutely rock solid. Not a single unit and not a single bit of damage. I mean, other than like the 44 SCVs that went down, right? I mean, I'm sure you realize that most of those ended up falling early game, right? But other than that, I mean, late game here, there's very little to beat Zerg on right now, or ByuN on right now. I mean, he's even getting a nuke. He's even getting a nuke right now. A tactical nuke may be deployed in this game, which is highly uncommon at professional level of StarCraft 2. Once again, though, Zerg is advancing right here at the same time. The Terran Bio has arrived here on the left corner of the map, and he's going to be able to kill so many of these units. The question is there going to be enough Zerg here to overwhelm all of these Bio units? So many Liberators up in the air as well, and more Ghosts are now being added on. I mean, that is such a difficult army to beat. There's gonna be more and more Bio movement, though. The Bio that previously killed the base here in the bottom left corner are now going after this base as well, and they will just barely be able to pick up that hatchery. Apparently, they didn't want to live a little bit longer there either, and they do end up all falling. At the same time, though, Impact is looking like he's gonna lose another base right here in the top right corner as well, and ByuN, I mean, Like I said, he's been in firm control here of the late game, while he ended up taking a lot of damage early on. Ooh, he is most definitely looking very solid right now. And the thing is, even if this bio dies right now, right, it's not that big of a deal, because what are you going to do? Are you going to fight into a lot of these siege tanks, all of these liberators, and so many ghosts? I highly doubt that that is going to be the case. Now, of course, ByuN will need to max out right here, right? He doesn't really have all too much economy here anymore. He's landing a lot of mules, of course, which is really literally like his lifeline right now. But the same can be said here for Zerg. Zerg is ahead when it comes to the supply counts. He's got an extremely powerful army, actually, of maxed out Ultralisk, a lot of high upgraded Corruptors here as well. We see tons of Banelings, which are great, of course, at dealing with all of the Terran army here as well. But look at that impact, using that single Overlord right there to drop some creep and start building up the Spine Crawlers as well as the Hatchery right here on the right-hand side in the top right corner of the map. Terran, however, even though he's not playing a mech-based style, he's most definitely turtling up, much like a mech player normally would. Building up a ton of static defense, really sitting tightly right there with so much bio. But the thing is, he will need to land the snipes. If these ghosts get surrounded and killed, right, these ghosts are extremely crucial. Without these ghosts, this game is going to be a very tricky one. Now, the scan does indeed confirm that there is a base here in the top right corner of the map. More and more Zerg, however, is now advancing as well. And did the Terran overextend? I thought for a second that maybe ByuN did, but apparently Impact's better judgments right there did allow him to move those Ultras back home once again as well. Liberators really moving pretty much everywhere. I mean, drops and damage is being dealt on every single side of the map. Impact leaving a couple of Ultras even right there to try and defend against imminent run-bys. But in this case, a little bit unfortunate for him. It is going to be a Liberator, and that Liberator is going to be able to start dealing damage here to the mineral line as well. Base in the top right-hand corner of the map, though, is taking a bunch of damage. But the Ultras apparently now also made their way over here to the left-hand side of the map. Ghost trying to line up their snipes, right? And while the majority of the Zerg army here is still ready to defend, I think that more and more damage will indeed get dealt here. And while apparently the Liberator did end up falling there in the last second, I mean, I can't help but think that this is going more and more and more in favor right now of the Terran player. 14 drones ended up falling there, right? The thing is, right, when you play against a Terran player like this and you are Zerg, where are you gonna attack? There's planetaries everywhere, there's tons of static defense everywhere, and really you're just waiting for the Terran to get to your side of the map instead. I think the best option actually right now for Impact may very well be to just simply hold on to all of his bases and wait for the imminent push. There's gonna be a push on his side of the map shortly. Maybe he can do a little bit of damage here. Sure, that's all fine and dandy. He's gonna be able to pick up a tank. He will be able to kill a couple of SCVs here as well. Very, very nicely done, but this really feels like a game where ByuN needs to make a move, and look at that, man. These snipes are spot on. So much damage being dealt here. So many Ultralisk are indeed going down, and while they are slowly being replaced here as well, Impact is starting to starve for resources. I mean, this base here in the top right corner has not really been allowed to mine for a long time, but he's not out of this game yet by any stretch of the imagination. At this point, he's not quite at 3-3 upgrades just yet, which actually is a big deal. I would love to see him get these, maybe even the +3 missile here as well if he so wants to, although at this point in the game, I guess none of his units really benefit from that. Regardless, though, this is a tricky one. Looks like Terran has decided to start advancing finally, right? And look at this Infestor. It's a full energy one with one massive fungal. So much damage can be dealt. Now, apparently the Hatchery lives with only 5 HP remaining. This Marine is going to be enough to clean that one up. I don't know if the Marine will be found just yet, though, because, I mean, that Hatchery will slowly start regenerating health here as well. But the mass bio army is now advancing here to the left-hand side of the map instead. Constantly checking here, though. Constantly trying to figure out where the majority of the Zerg army is located. And actually, at this point, I mean, it's starting to look better and better for Impact. I mean, Impact has managed to keep that economy of the Terran player small as well. These bases are all gonna mine out here in just a matter of minutes. He's killed so many SCVs here in the base here on the top right-hand corner, and with like one proper fungal, he can easily take out the majority of this army, right? It really just comes down to the ghosts taking the damage, right? If the ghosts are down, that means that this Terran bio army is gonna be in a ton of trouble as well. Neither player really having a big bank, right? Really just barely scrambling at 1,000 resources each, and while both of them are currently maxed out, I think we are just about to see a major clash between both of the armies. But the thing is, once again, where is Impact gonna attack? He's trying to secure these bases, right? And he has indeed you know, taking another hatchery right here in the northern end of the map as well. I don't think this is really going to happen. Apparently, a lot of Zerglings are feeling a little suicidal today as they did decide to run to their deaths right there. But still, this base is mining right now. Impact still has got 50 workers versus only 40 time here, or 42 right now for ByuN. This actually could be anyone's game. I love it whenever we see drones 25 minutes into the game on the production tab. That shows that a player knows fully well the situation that they are in, and this game may go on for a while longer. The question is, when is either of these players gonna pack up their stuff and engage at one of these bases? I think that this hatchery has got his last seconds though, because I mean these spines indeed will take damage, and I mean that hatchery will have to end up falling here as well, unless ByuN is a merciful god. Actually, no, he's gonna keep it alive for a little while longer, but here we go. The biggest engagement of this battle so far. Ghosts trying to line up their snipes. The Liberators are falling very, very rapidly here as well with the amount of Corruptors here in the air. And actually, ByuN, while he is indeed losing a lot of his army, while most of his army is down, look at that fungal though, huge fungal growth going down. The Ghost cloaking to just barely get on out of there. ByuN is ahead in the army supply counts. He's getting so much value out of all of these Ghosts, and I mean, for a second, those Ghosts looked like they were all gonna end up falling here, but Impact, his supply count is starting to look a little bit scary. I mean, ByuN has got a bank right now, right? He's building up troops. He's making 8 Marines, 4 Liberators, and 4 Ghosts at any given moment. Even getting all of these mech upgrades right now as well for his flyers. That's a scary one. He's confirming right now the amount of bases that are available right here for the Zerg. And if left alone, of course, Impact will be able to rebuild his army with relative ease as well. But the thing is, I mean, he could get a huge fungal here. I know he's thinking about it right now as well. He could get a huge fungal, but of course he will immediately get scanned and never have time for the second fungal to time out as well. Playing very, very carefully here as well is Impact. But Impact, the supply count is not lying right here, and this is what I was talking about all this time. I mean, he was definitely in a solid position, but ByuN, I mean, he's impenetrable at this point in the game. He's just got this solid wall off right now, and I mean, these bases are mined off, so he's finally sent the reinforcing units from that area back towards the main force as well. Once again, though, we got a big engagement. Fungal goes down. The Ghost will end up falling here as well. Beautiful move there, right there by Impact, making the best of the army that he's got. But ByuN, he just simply had a little bit too much stuff, and being the impenetrable wall that is ByuN, he just simply barely took any damage there at the later stages of this game, right? While the majority of the workers that he lost were all in the earliest stages of this game as well, little by little was his economy like affected as well, right? I mean, a lot of SUVs ended up falling throughout this game. I just sort of feel like with the triple command center opener right here from Terran, he's going to be able to build that back up. He's going to be able to build that back up. I mean, it was like a 2 hatchery versus a triple command center, like, push, right? And from there on out, while Zerg was most definitely ahead, Terran can, of course, produce units as well as SUVs at the same time while dropping mules, right? And Zerg has got the disadvantage in that point, at the very least, that they always have to make the decision whether or not they want to make units or whether or not they want to make drones. And, I mean, the late game defense right there, the late game play by ByuN was just simply a step ahead of his opponent. I mean, Impact was trying to do the damage that he could, but ByuN was just not taking any of it. And eventually, by playing extremely patiently, he managed to overpower his opponent, and he managed to obtain the victory. An epic match. I hope you enjoy watching it. If you haven't already, do make sure you hit that like button down below, because it does help me out a lot. And of course, make sure you subscribe so you get a notification as soon as new videos go up as well, if you enjoyed this one. Other than that, I want to thank you for watching. Have an amazing day. Do not forget to smile, alright, and I will see you in the next one.